Today is December 25th, 2019, and this is your daily Half-Life 3 update. There is no news about Half-Life 3. So yesterday, I had asked for questions, since this was the Christmas special today. This is the third Christmas special I've done, and as with most trilogies, the third is the worst. There is other things I want to talk about today, so I will kind of pepper those in throughout the video when I get to questions that are going to be related to those things that I want to talk about. It's actually quite convenient that some of these questions are, somewhat at least related to the other things I want to talk about. I mentioned I'm not going to answer every question, just the good questions. I'm not going to ask the questions I've already talked about before. So up first, I have Dr. Freeman. He asked if I like romantic movies, or what do I think about romantic movies. And he mentioned, movies with Nick Robinson. I wouldn't say that I'm not a fan of romantic movies. I just don't watch that many romantic movies. It's just not something that I've kind of it's just not something that I've stepped into or whatever. I see a trailer for a romantic movie and it doesn't really interest me, so I'm just not too well versed in that area of that movie genre. If not, Nick Robinson is who I think he is. The kid from the original Jurassic World. I say the original Jurassic World. It's a remake of Jurassic Park, but whatever. If he's who I think he is, I do like him. I think he's a good actor. So yeah. Up next, we have Rectangle Boy, who asked if you could eat dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? For that, I would probably say Christopher Lee, with maybe a close second being Peter Cushing. Those two just seem like they'd be like they're just really interesting guys, and it would probably be really cool to just sit down and listen to what they have to say. Conversations. Christopher Lee particularly, he seems like he did a lot in his life. It'd be really awesome to talk with him. And kind of the same with Peter Cushing. He's done a lot of stuff too. Next, Blake Benfield asked, how close am I to getting the VR headset? I am actually extremely not close at all. I have like $15 put away from there, and that's very far off. That's like maybe cover at least the taxes, or shipping and handling or whatever. Not close at all. That's definitely going to be the importance of the Patreon, and I'm hoping that, as per usual with Valve, there will be some type of delay for Half-Life Alyx. I would be hoping for a delay, because a delay in a video game usually just means you're getting a better game, and I have more time to save up to buy Half-Life Alyx. So I would not be opposed to a delay. I don't know if one's going to happen, though, because obviously it's Valve. There's Valve time. We all know that. But then you also got to think, at this point, Valve themselves should be aware of Valve time, and they're going to be trying very hard to hit that March 2020 release date, I imagine. They don't want their reputation to get the better of themselves again. I don't think they would like that very much. Okay, Eternal Density asked, what cheese do I prefer, if any? Usually when I'm having a sandwich, I'll have American cheese, maybe provolone. And provolone's a little blander. I'll do Swiss if I'm desperate. Maybe for maybe if I'm doing like tacos, I think Swiss is better for that. Cheddar, sometimes. I like cream cheese. That's good with bagels. Obviously, you could. I also like to snack on mozzarella cheese. You get like a little bit of peel off a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Eat it. It's something. Parmesan too. I like to put Parmesan on my pasta. That's next. Haven JB asks, now that Half-Life Alyx has been announced, do you feel more optimistic about the potential of Half-Life 3 finally happening? Obviously I do feel more optimistic. Valve they're making another Half-Life game. They're stepping back into this. They're aware of it. They haven't forgotten Half-Life exists, and they pretty much said, not in so many words, but they said, Half-Life Alyx does well. We could eventually see Half-Life 3. It was almost kind of this weird ultimatum. Half-Life Alyx does well, we might see Half-Life 3. Half-Life Alyx doesn't do well, definitely not seeing Half-Life 3. So it was kind of... But I think from what they said themselves, it does seem like Half-Life 3 would be more possible. I feel like, unfortunately, the big downside to this whole thing, if anything, would be that it's going to be a very long time before we see Half-Life 3, in my opinion. Valve is not one to pump stuff out. So, if Half-Life Alyx does hit the March 2020 release date, which I think it's at least going to come out in 2020. It might come out later in 2020 than March. I mentioned the delays. But I feel like it's at least going to come out in 2020. I would be surprised if we saw Half-Life 3 before 2028. I know that's kind of like super depressing. But yeah, there's got to be time between Half-Life games, and then there's got to be time between games in general. If Half-Life Alyx does well, the next game Valve does is not going to be a Half-Life game. It could be some other. It's going to be some other game. Maybe a new IP, or a Left 4 Dead 3 or a Portal 3. I feel like they're not going to do Portal 3 because that was something they mentioned. Planning Portal, a Portal VR, but they talked about that when it worked with like motion sickness and stuff. So maybe not Portal, but still, you get the idea. They're most likely going to make something else after Half-Life Alyx that isn't Half-Life. Kind of like Bethesda. They don't do back-to-back Fallout. They got Fallout, they got Skyrim, and then they need another Fallout. You got the Starfield or whatever, then you got the new Elder Scrolls, and then, they stagger this stuff. So there's going to be time between Half-Life 3, unfortunately. And I even think 2028 is, being a little optimistic. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing a Half-Life 3 in 2030. What's next? Bulgarian fan asks if I am a fan of XFiles. I do like XFiles a lot. It's a good show, a very influential show for a lot of TV today. The serialized episodic stuff, which is really, it was influenced by Twin Peaks, of course, but Twin Peaks is an incredible show. But the thing with X-Files is weird. I'm not even sure if I've seen every episode of X-Files, because what I used to do is I would watch X-Files. I'd be laying on my couch watching X-Files, and they would just keep playing on Netflix. I think I think I was I had Netflix hooked up. It was Xbox Live connected to Netflix. I think you could watch. I don't know. You had to have Xbox Live to access Netflix, which I thought was ridiculous. You're paying twice, and they got rid of the best feature, which you could do Xbox parties, but whatever. So I would watch XFiles on Netflix, and Netflix will just keep playing until eventually Netflix asks, like, "Are you okay? Are you still watching?" And at that point, I would have fallen asleep during some episode, and who knows how many episodes would come up, and I'd eventually wake up, and I have no idea what episodes I watched, what episodes I didn't watch. So I would just kind of chalk it up to a loss and keep going. That happened several times. Now I feel like I've seen most, if not all, of season 1. I've seen the movies. I've definitely seen all of the last 2 seasons, the new seasons that came out in like 16 and 18, maybe 15 and 17, something like that. I've definitely seen all of those, the 2 recent seasons. I've seen most of the spin-off Millennium, too. That's kind of an underrated TV show, also. I never saw any of the Lone Gunmen. I don't know, that's like 1 season. So yeah, I am a big fan of X-Files. I do have an X-Files poster over there that I want to believe. Okay, come on. Travel asked about the Jurassic Park poster. Like where I got it. Do I like Jurassic Park? I probably got it as a present. Maybe. I mean, maybe I got it for myself because I just wanted a Jurassic Park poster. I don't know. I am a very big fan of Jurassic Park. I'd probably consider Jurassic Park to be my... I'd probably consider Jurassic Park to be my most favorite... I don't like that. I'd probably consider Jurassic Park to be my favorite movie of all time. I would put that as number 1. I've always been a fan of Jurassic Park ever since I was a little kid. Yeah. Okay, Paul the Fonz asked if I want an excuse to plug my Patreon. Now, what I'm going to be doing with Patreon, I've mentioned this briefly before, and I've expanded into it a little bit more. As you may already know, exclusively on Patreon, I'm going to be doing a commentary, a walkthrough, a let's play, whatever you want to call it, of every single Half-Life game in preparation for Half-Life Alyx, and all that money will go towards my fund to buy VR and equipment. I'll probably need a new computer too. It's really unfortunate. So how it's going to work, there's going to be 3 different tiers. At the $1 tier, you'll get access to my walkthrough of Half-Life, Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and Half-Life 2 Episode 2. I'm putting those all together because that's like the main story, Gordon Freeman. And with that, that's going to be my first time playing the original Half-Life, so that might be worth checking out. That's going to be the $1 tier. The $3 tier is pretty simple. You get all of that stuff. You just get it a week early. Didn't really put a whole lot of effort into that $3 tier. It's just a week early. Save some time. You can be cool. Spoil it for other people. Yeah. And then at the $10 tier, there is going to be a $10 tier. At the $10 tier, I'll be doing walkthroughs of Blue Shift, Opposing Force, Portal, Portal 2, Lost Coast, and maybe something else I've forgotten. I don't know. I'll be doing Let's Plays of all those, or walkthroughs of all those. Maybe some mods that I have that I really like too. Maybe Stanley Parable if I have time. And with that also, it's a $10 tier, so it's It's a little more. There's more games that I'm playing, and there's also more games that I'm playing for the first time. You know, it's my first time playing Blue Shift, my first time playing Opposing Force, my first time playing Portal 2. So it's a little bit more money. You're getting a little bit more. You know, it is what it is. You'll of course at the $10 tier you'll get the Half-Life and the Half-Life 2 and the episode. You'll get them the week early, like the $3 tier people are. So I think it's decent. That's probably gonna start up about January, early January, mid-January at the latest. I've been working on. I want to get a lot of these recorded and in a backlog, so I'm not like waiting. I want the release to be as consistent as possible. So I've just been playing through Half-Life 1 recently. So yeah, I mean, that's something to check out. You know, early January, mid-January maybe. I mean, if people check it out, that's great. If not, doesn't really matter. I mean, okay, what's this? Hold on. Shaylish S asked, if Half-Life Alyx becomes a huge success, then can we expect Half-Life 3 to be in VR as well? Okay, Half-Life Alyx is a success. I would be surprised if Half-Life 3 wasn't at least VR, if not VR exclusive. Because the big thing they're talking about with Half-Life Alyx, because they've gotten this question, why isn't Half-Life Alyx, VR and non-VR? They talk about like if we were trying to like port this to non-VR, it just wouldn't work. You'd lose so many of the gameplay. I don't think that's going to change for Half-Life 3. I can't imagine. I couldn't imagine Half-Life 3 being, less involved than Half-Life Alyx. That would be really strange to me. So, and I do kind of see VR kind of being the future for video games, at least to some point. I mean, we still don't know kind of how VR is going to fit into this and how it's going to change things. And I guess Half-Life Alyx is going to be a really good. It's going to be a really good judge of that. If Half-Life Alyx is a really big success, makes a lot of money, very critically well received too. You get a lot of people shelling out to buy VRs. I wouldn't be surprised if we started switching completely from flat screen, whatever they want to call it, to VR. So I don't know. I would be kind of surprised if Half-Life 3 was if there were like two modes, like if there was the VR mode and then there was the flat screen mode. I would be surprised if that happened. I would be surprised if it wasn't VR exclusive. I mean, what I could see maybe happening is two versions of games, the VR version and then the non-VR version, which will basically be a completely different game, but just contain the general feel and the same story. So, I mean, again, that's another thing that, would companies even want to do that? It would kind of be like like a mobile game, how a mobile game is kind of similar, or a GameCube game or a Flash game. Do you really want to do that? Is that really something you want to do? It's like, I mean, would they really go through the effort of releasing, what would basically be like a mod of Half-Life 3 on the Source engine for, PC and Xbox players? however much money however much extra money that costs them, and then they gotta price that for people aren't gonna pay $60 for that and make them pay $30 for it or something, or so. Who knows? It's really tough to say what's going to happen in the future with VR, but I could definitely imagine some VR going crazy places like that movie that came out that was all VR, the Gerard Butler movie, Gamer. What's next? Yeet Yeet asked, when will Half-Life 3 be released? I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to go ahead and say that Half-Life 3 will be released in 2023. No, 2033. Correction there. 2033. Maybe March. I mean, it's pretty cool. Like, you could do like March 3rd, 2033. It's 4 3s. 3 p.m. Fazar Nugroho asked, pick one, James or Sawyer. And he said, why? So I assume he's going to be talking about Lost. Obviously, the character James Ford goes by the name of Sawyer. He took that after the guy who conned his parents and led to his father committing a murder-suicide. I would probably say James, just because that seems like the more general progression of the character. Around the season 3 point, he starts to kind of go by James a little bit more with season 4, and then in season 5 he's mostly James or Jim, when he's LaFleur with the Dharma people. And so just him kind of going back to James a little bit. He's still obviously Sawyer to a lot of these people, but him going back to James a little bit is just the progression of the character, and one of the better character arcs within Lost. With you got Sawyer, you got Locke, Ben, Jack. Definitely one of the better character arcs on the show, Mr. Echo. Right. What's next? Jin Pan Feather asked, when will you be resuming the Hazard Time podcast? Hazard Time podcasts are gonna be starting up again next Monday. The Monday after Christmas. I think it's the 30th. So it's gonna be starting up the 30th. I have one. I have the next one on the back burner. I thought about releasing it Monday. I was like, nah, it's Christmas week. I'll just wait. No one's going to listen to it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, Monday we'll start up the podcasts again, and I'm going to try and do all the other stuff. I'll have another rummage sale movie to put out on Friday. All right. Kyle is cool asked, are you aware of the Darkest Timeline and how it was corrected? I'm still very confused on what happened with all that. I don't know what that machine was that was built. I don't know where I was. I don't know who the guy with all the spoons is. There's a lot of things I'm really not sure about. I don't really know. Rectangle Boy, you got in there twice. He also asked again, how old are you? I am 25 years old. Captain Spaulding asked, he asked 2 questions. I guess I'll answer them both, because they're both relevant. I'll get away with that too. He asked, 1, are you going to review Star Wars 9? Oh yeah, because that'll go well. I'm not going to review Star Wars 9 in a traditional sense as, movie review as I would do. But I'll probably talk about it in a podcast episode. I'll probably get Dimitri on because he's going to see it too. Kind of against his will a little bit. But he's going to see Star Wars Episode 9, and we'll probably do a podcast episode talking about it. Maybe it'll probably be like the second podcast in January where we talk about it. You definitely want to. I definitely want to, marinate on it a little bit. And Captain Spaulding also asked, are you working on new video formats? Not really, but this also does bring me into something else that I want to do. What I'm going to be doing, as some people may have noticed or may not have noticed, not everyone's perceptive, but every year I change up the thumbnail a little bit. For the first year I did this, not the first like 365 days, the first calendar year, so just 2017. For all of 2017, I had the tally marks. That filled up the screen kind of quick. And then once 2017 was over and 2018 started, I switched over to Roman numerals, which helped me learn Roman numerals very easily. And then once that ended and 2019 began, I switched over to the thumbnail that I currently have, which I took inspiration from you see like the posters at work sites that say it has been blank days since the last accident. So that's kind of what inspired me to make the thumbnail. It was a very easy thumbnail for me to make. I'm not very good at stuff. So with 2020, I'm going to want to update the thumbnail for these videos again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. If you have, what you think is a cool design for the thumbnail, just go to the Discord. I'll have the link to the Discord as well as the link to the Patreon. Go to the Discord, post your design for the thumbnail there, and if I like it, I'll use it for the video. And I guess your reward would be that I use it for the next 365 days. I was just making it simple because I'm very, I'm not very good at, like Photoshop. I don't even use Photoshop. I use Microsoft Paint for most of my things, as you could probably tell by the simplicity of my thumbnails. So, you can make the thumbnail elaborate, but also make sure that it will be easy for me to change the numbers, every single day for 365 days. And also, you're going to want to make sure that the thumbnail is capable of containing 4 digits. Because, believe it or not, I think we're going to be hitting 4 digits next year. So, that's crazy. 4 digits next year. We're getting close to 800. Yeah, we'll probably hit 4 digits next year. Maybe we'll hit 4 digits in like December or October or something. November or October, I would think. I'm not good at math. But yeah, so just submit an idea. Just submit your updated version of the thumbnail into the Discord. And if I like it enough, I'll end up using it for the thumbnails of the daily Half-Life 3 updates. And honestly, if I like it, I'll probably be turning to you more to get other designs for thumbnails, because that's, I don't really have anything like that right now. I know Dimitri is my editor right now, so if I ever need anything edited that's beyond my capabilities, I'll send it to him. And hopefully it's not beyond his capabilities. But yeah, so just head over to the Discord. Check it out. I'll probably mention it again in like tomorrow's update, because people might not be inclined to watch a 30-minute update video. So yeah. And then the last question is from Jack Turner Bogdan Zivojinovic. That had to be a little bit close, right? I had to have a couple syllables in there. And he asked if I smoke weed. Nice try, Narc. And that has been your daily Half-Life 3 update for December 25th, 2019.